Deconstructing allegations against Israel and Zionism. In the Machiavellian realm of geopolitics, perceptions often diverge drastically from reality, and narratives are crafted and manipulated to serve the interests of those in power. Such is the case with the contentious discourse surrounding Israel and Zionism, where accusations of imperialism, oppression, and deceit abound. However, from a Machiavellian perspective, it becomes evident that the reality is far more nuanced, driven by strategic imperatives and the pursuit of power and security. Firstly, let us address the portrayal of figures like Alan Dershowitz as mere mercenaries, employed to advance a particular agenda rather than to genuinely serve the interests of Israel. From a Machiavellian standpoint, it is naive to expect altruism in politics. Individuals like Dershowitz are motivated by a combination of personal ambition, ideological conviction, and strategic calculation. Their advocacy for Israel is not merely a matter of financial incentive, but rather a calculated maneuver to safeguard Israel's interests and enhance its geopolitical position. Similarly, the assertion that Israel seeks to impose its will upon the international community reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of power dynamics in global politics. Machiavelli famously asserted that it is better to be feared than loved, and Israel's assertiveness on the world stage is driven by a pragmatic understanding of this principle. In a hostile and unpredictable geopolitical environment, Israel cannot afford to be passive or accommodating. It must assert its interests forcefully to secure its survival in a hostile neighborhood. The comparison drawn between Dershowitz and historical figures like Hermann Goering is a crude attempt to smear Israel and its supporters by associating them with the darkest chapters of human history. From a Machiavellian perspective, such propaganda tactics are not only reprehensible but also indicative of the weakness of one's position. By resorting to ad hominem attacks and guilt by association, detractors reveal their inability to engage in substantive debate and resort to manipulation and deception to advance their agenda. Turning to the historical roots of Zionism, it is essential to recognize the pragmatic imperatives that drove the movement's founders. Machiavelli famously argued that the ends justify the means, and for the early Zionists, the establishment of a Jewish homeland was an existential imperative necessitating bold and decisive action. Far from being driven by messianic zeal or imperialist ambition, Zionism emerged as a pragmatic response to the plight of the Jewish people and their quest for self-determination in the face of centuries of persecution and discrimination. The characterization of the two-state solution as a sham overlooks the complex realities and strategic calculations that underpin Israel's approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Machiavelli emphasized the importance of flexibility and adaptability in politics, and Israel's position on the two-state solution reflects a pragmatic recognition of the changing geopolitical landscape. While committed to a negotiated settlement, Israel cannot afford to compromise its security or national interests in pursuit of an illusory peace. Finally, the assertion that the land occupied by Israel today is not the promised land of biblical lore overlooks the strategic imperatives that have shaped Israel's territorial expansion and consolidation. Machiavelli famously argued that territory is the foundation of power, and Israel's control over strategic territories is driven by a pragmatic understanding of this principle. While historical and religious narratives may inform Israel's identity and sense of belonging, its territorial ambitions are ultimately shaped by realpolitik considerations rather than ideological or messianic fervor. In conclusion, the allegations leveled against Israel and Zionism reflect a superficial understanding of power politics and strategic imperatives. From a Machiavellian perspective, Israel's assertiveness and pragmatism are not only justified but necessary for its survival in a hostile and unpredictable geopolitical environment. By deconstructing these allegations and examining them through a lens of realpolitik, we can gain a more nuanced understanding of the complexities and realities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.